When I was 9, I thought my mother, Eleanor Brooks, was the gentlest woman in the world. She spoke softly, always smelled of vanilla and lavender, and hummed old songs from the 70s while doing the dishes. But when I turned 10, she stopped humming. That year, my father, Thomas Brooks, brought home a woman named Charlotte and introduced her as his business partner. A few months later, Charlotte moved into our guest house. Everyone in our small town of Willow Creek, Oregon, whispered about it, but no one said anything to my mother's face. My mother smiled through it all. Every morning she made breakfast for everyone, including Charlotte. She never complained, never raised her voice, she just faded. When I was 12, my parents separated. My father stayed with Charlotte and took most of our savings. My mother and I moved into a small apartment above a bakery. She worked 3 jobs, cleaning offices, folding clothes at a thrift store, and baking muffins for the same shop that let us live upstairs. At 16, I told her, "You should hate him." She just smiled weakly. "Hate is heavy, Lily. I have no room left to carry it. But I hated him enough for both of us." Years later, I got into a university in New York City. My mother refused to come with me. "Go live your life," she said. "Don't drag my shadow with you." I left, and I barely called. Life in the city was fast, intoxicating. My father occasionally sent me money, guilt disguised as generosity. He had married Charlotte and they had a son, Ethan. Then one winter, my mother got sick. I didn't know how bad it was until the bakery owner called me crying. When I arrived, she was already gone. At the funeral, my father and Charlotte came. Charlotte cried more than anyone. People whispered about how kind she was for attending. I wanted to scream. 2 weeks later, I received a small wooden box, my mother's will. Inside was a letter and a key. The letter read, "My Lily, if you are reading this, I am gone. But there's something I never told you. Something buried under the old oak tree behind the house where you grew up. Go there, find the truth. Love always, Mom." I thought it was some poetic metaphor. But 2 months later, I couldn't sleep until I found out what she meant. So I drove back to Willow Creek. The old house was abandoned now, weeds everywhere, the windows broken. But the oak tree was still there. I started digging under the frozen soil. My fingers went numb, nails cracked, but I didn't stop. After half an hour, my shovel hit a metal box. Inside was a folder, a few photographs, and a notebook. The first page read, "Charlotte knew." The photos showed my mother working at my father's office, years before he started dating Charlotte. They were partners once, business partners, but all the contracts had only Thomas's name. Every design, every idea that had built his small construction company, they were hers. She had built his empire, and Charlotte had been her best friend. There was even a document, an agreement she had signed, transferring all her shares to Thomas temporarily, back when they were just starting out. It was never returned. My mother had written everything in detail, dates, amounts, even conversations. The last page said, "If you're reading this, I want you to know, I didn't stay silent because I was weak. I stayed silent because I believed that truth finds its way, even if the people who deserve it never ask for it." I drove straight to my father's new mansion. When Charlotte opened the door, her face turned pale. "Lily," she whispered, "you shouldn't be here." "I found her notes," I said. "She wrote everything." Thomas appeared behind her. His face was older, but that same arrogance remained. "I suppose you want money," he said coldly. I laughed. "No, Dad. I want you to live knowing that everyone will know what you did." And they did. I published the documents online, anonymously. Within weeks, every local paper wrote about it. His company collapsed, investors left, and Charlotte filed for divorce. But instead of feeling triumphant, I felt empty. A year later, I returned to Willow Creek again. The oak tree stood tall. I sat beneath it, reading my mother's notebook once more. On the back page, there was one more line I hadn't noticed before. "When truth destroys what's wrong, it also frees what's right." Don't let vengeance cage your heart. Lily. Let me rest knowing you can forgive. I cried until the sun came up. Now, 5 years later, I still live in New York. I became a journalist, maybe because I inherited her obsession with truth. Sometimes people ask me why I always wear a silver necklace with an oak leaf pendant. I smile and say, because it reminds me that even in silence, roots grow deep, and truth always finds the light.